Welcome along, fellow time travelers and strange historians. This time around, we're going to travel back in time to check out the strange murder of Alfalfa. Before I begin, please like and share the show and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Now please join me around the campfire. A great deal has been written about the life and career of Carl Switzer. So in this show, I am going to mostly focus on his strange murder. Before I do, kindly understand that the nickname Alfalfa stuck with Carl Switzer from the moment Hollywood producer Hal Roach coined it. This persisted through his adult life and beyond. That name was used by everybody. He was known simply as Alfalfa, or sometimes Alfie, or even just Alf. And so I shall address him by that name that became his enduring identity. Alfalfa launched into the world of acting as a young boy in the mid-1930s. He gained fame in the Our Gang comedies with his portrayal of Alfalfa, a character that would become one of the most beloved and iconic figures of the series. After his departure from Our Gang in 1940, when he was only 13 years old, he found it challenging to land significant acting roles, largely due to being pigeonholed by his earlier success. In his adult years, he frequently took on minor roles and appeared in a lot of low-budget films. However, it has been said that he could have had the type of career Jerry Lewis went on to have, but Alfalfa simply wasn't that interested in continuing a career in Hollywood. You see, despite a consistent presence in films and television shows, Alfalfa was most at home in the great outdoors. His heart lay in the embrace of nature, and he frequently chose the call of the wild over professional commitments in the film and television industries. And so, escaping the gritty confines of Hollywood, he reveled in the fresh mountain air and untamed landscapes of the High Sierra, just outside Los Angeles, or ventured an additional 600 miles north to the awe-inspiring beauty of the Cascade Range and Mount Shasta. Alfalfa channeled his fervor for nature into breeding and training hunting dogs, carving out a niche for himself as a hunting guide. He specialized in bear hunts, turning his passion into a livelihood that reflected his profound connection with the wilderness. And so he began to spend more and more of his time breeding dogs and being a guide for hunting expeditions. And even though he had impressive clients such as Roy Rogers, James Stewart, and Henry Fonda, he struggled financially, and he worked as a bartender, and he did take on acting roles here and there, some of which were in high-quality films like It's a Wonderful Life. In December of 1958, Alfalfa was arrested for cutting down 15 pine trees that he had intended to illegally sell as Christmas trees. He was sentenced to 1 year's probation. Alfalfa was also ordered to pay a $225 fine, which was the equivalent of about $2,400 as of the time of this recording. Days later, Alfalfa borrowed a dog from his friend Moses Samuel Stilts. His friends called him Bud. Bud was a mechanic and welder who worked as a bodyguard for Ray Corgan. His friends called him Crash. Eventually, he moved in with his boss's wife and became stepfather of his former boss's children. And so this guy was kind of a jerk and a bully. And so it was while under Alfalfa's care that the hound escaped in pursuit of a bear. And Bud was pissed off, and he insisted that Alfalfa should either retrieve his hound or compensate him for its full value. With no cash on hand to resolve the issue, Alfalfa launched a campaign placing newspaper ads and distributing flyers, promising a reward for the hound's safe return. And should he have to pay the reward, Alfalfa had already made arrangements to borrow the money. You see, even though Our Gang was in syndication for years and was generating millions of dollars, none of it was going to any of its stars, including, of course, Alfalfa. The good news is that the dog was eventually found and delivered to the bar where Alfalfa was employed. The person who returned the dog received $35 in cash and $15 worth of drinks, an amount approximately equal to $550 as of the time of this recording. Alfalfa begrudged the loss of the $50, which he really couldn't afford. And so a few days later, Alfalfa told his new friend, Jack Piat, who was a 37-year-old still photographer, how he felt. And both men agreed that Alfalfa should be reimbursed for the reward money, reasoning that the responsibility for the dog lay with Bud, not Alfalfa. And so the two men agreed to go over to Bud's house in Los Angeles to ask for the $50. At dusk, On January 21st, 1959, there was a knock on the front door at the Corgan residence. The person on the other side of the door said, "Western Union for Bud Stilts." Upon recognizing the voice, Tommy, the 14-year-old son of Crash Corgan, who was living at the house with his mother and stepfather, nearly chuckled. You see, he knew Alfalfa was joking around, because he knew Alfie for as long as he could remember, since he was friends with his father, Crash Corgan. And so Tommy's mother Rita opened the door, and she let Alfie and Jack inside the home. They were both visibly intoxicated. They probably should have just gone home and went to sleep. But instead, fueled by alcohol, they showed up to speak with Bud. Bud walked into the room clutching a .38 caliber gun. Now perhaps Alfalfa saw or starred in way too many movies because he immediately reached for the gun to keep Bud from threatening them with it. In the ensuing scuffle for the weapon between Alfalfa and Bud, Jack delivered a striking blow to Bud's head with a glass-domed clock. Bud's eyes shot from the swelling, and in the commotion, the gun discharged. The bullet lodged into a wall, with fragments striking Tommy in the leg. This prompted Tommy's mother and younger sisters to dash to a neighbor's for help, and the chaos momentarily paused. Injured, Tommy made his way to the front door to also leave the house. He heard Alfalfa say, "Well, Tommy's been shot. Enough of this." And that's when Alfalfa and Jack turned to leave the house. Tommy had barely stepped outside when he heard a second gunshot ring out. He turned around and he saw Alfalfa's stunned expression as he staggered against the wall and then sank to the floor. He was wounded in the groin. It was then that Tommy noticed a penknife near Alfalfa. It had slipped from his grasp, or perhaps fell out of his pocket. Alfalfa sustained a fatal gunshot wound to the abdomen and died shortly after. Bud then cornered Jack and pointed the gun at him, saying that he was the next one to be shot. But before he could shoot Jack, he heard the sound of police sirens getting closer. And so the gun did not discharge in the heat of a struggle. Tommy Corgan framed the act not as a scene of self-defense, but rather bluntly as something akin to murder. And so Tommy shared his version of events with a detective named Pat Poe at the time, and even agreed to testify if needed. However, his testimony was never solicited. In the aftermath, Deputy District Attorney Al Warnberg announced intentions to press murder charges against Moses Samuel Bud Stilts, who, appearing in newspaper photos with a large bandage over his right eye, claimed he acted in self-defense. An inquest conducted on Monday, January 26, heard a tearful Bud telling the coroner's jury, "Alfie charged me with a jackknife." He insisted he had no choice but to shoot Alfie in self-defense. The jury concluded that Bud's actions were justified as self-defense, and so Bud returned home to Rita Corgan and her children. Gladys Switzer, Alfalfa's mother, also doubted the official narrative surrounding her son's death. She considered pushing for a thorough police investigation, but she hesitated, fearing the impact it might have on her husband Fred's heart condition. Alfalfa was laid to rest at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Hollywood, California on January 27, 1959. It has been said that his passing was largely overshadowed in the press by the death of legendary filmmaker Cecil B. DeMille, which occurred on the same exact day, and that consequently, Alfalfa's obituary received scant attention as DeMille's tribute prevailed in the media. But that really wasn't true. The death of Alfalfa was big news everywhere. The headstone, marking Alfalfa's final resting place, is adorned with the emblem of Freemasonry, the square and compass, along with a depiction of a hunting dog. This reflects his passion for dog training and his role as a hunting guide, pursuits that occupied him until his untimely demise. So, what do you think about what happened to Alfalfa that night? What do you think about how the lives of former child stars oftentimes end tragically? Kindly share your thoughts in the comments below. By the way, I do not know who took some of the images that I've shown in the show, so if you do, will you kindly let me know so I can respectfully give them the credit they deserve. At this point, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this time travel adventure to learn about the strange murder of Alfalfa. Kindly remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because there will be more shows like this one, and I hope you check those out too. Kindly check out the links below to learn how to support my research and productions. Specifically, I'd really appreciate it if you could become a member of my channel and or join me on Patreon. You could also leave a super thanks in the comments below. Kindly be kind to all non-human animals and please don't eat them. They don't like that. Remember, for the benefit of compassion for all living things and their own health, brilliant people throughout history chose a plant-based diet. And please do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter and adopt a cat or a dog or both. You and they will be very glad that you did. Until next time, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.